All right, no, but for real, welcome to the Always Choose Violence, the only podcast where battles are a business.
And magic is our mantra.
I'm Navigator.
And I'm JJ.
Dive deep with us into the pioneer format of Magic the Gathering,
while we unravel the tactics of the game and the philosophy of always coming out swinging.
Whether you're a seasoned planeswalker
or just curious about the realm, ready your deck, and let's get started.
For in every game,
every challenge,
every lesson,
we always choose
violence! Yes! I've nailed it. It only took 3 episodes into being in person. Cheers. All right.
And that ends our podcast.
Retiring now.
Yeah, so in this episode, we'll be drawing back the curtain on the intricate philosophies and theories enshrined in the various deck archetypes of MTG. We're going to dissect, debate, and delve deep into the uncharted territories of aggro, control, combo, and mid-range decks.
Yeah, that's right. We'll navigate through the violent currents of strategies, examine the essence of each archetype, and reveal secret mantras that drive their construction and execution.
Yeah, we're launching an all-out assault on the mysteries of MTG, battling to uncover the underlying principles that orchestrate the chaos of the battlefield.
Yeah, so here's what's in store.
First, we'll unearth the backbone of aggro's relentless assault and discover what is the core philosophy that fuels the aggressive onslaught of aggro decks.
Yep. Next, we'll explore the fortress of control archetypes, so answering how do control decks manipulate the tempo and dictate the rhythm of the battle, seizing victory from the jaws of their adversaries.
And I'm starting to warm up to control quite a bit.
It's like, unfortunately.
You know what? It's like you just try it a little bit.
That's why we can never finish a game.
Yeah, it's the worst. And finally, we'll probe the labyrinth of combo decks and unravel when mysterious forces align to unlock the explosive game-winning potential inherent in combo archetypes.
Yeah. So, listeners, if you're excited to plunge deeper and sharpen your skills and elevate your game, stick around as we storm through today's topics. And don't forget to share your thoughts, your strategies, and your battle tales with us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch. Keep your armor on, and may your strategies be ever violent. So, where's this coming from? So, JJ and I were going through our first 2 episodes and realized we wanted to clarify our vision with Always Choose Violence.
Have a topic.
Yeah. Why are we here? So that you, the viewer or the listener, have a clear expectation of the show, making it easier to follow along and actually get some value.
Yeah, and so instead of rambling on about random cards, we actually want to put some content out there that aligns our overall goals.
You mean choosing violence?
Yes, choosing violence. No, dummy. Well, no, I'm talking about improving, about getting better at Magic and taking your game to the next level.
And that's whatever that level may be. Whether you're like us and just stepping into tournament Magic at our LGS, whether you're trying out RCQs or you've already racked up a whole bunch of pro points and you just want to hear some schmoes talk.
Yeah. And early on, we established ourselves as a pioneer podcast, and that's still true. But we're a podcast of kind of 2 average people trying to make it in competitive Magic. While everything we talk about will predominantly be through the pioneer lens, the core of our content is improving as Magic players and improving our deck building skills.
Yeah, so let's get started. So our first segment of today is Last Week in Pioneer. And Last Week in Pioneer was actually pretty eventful. Let me go ahead and share this. So for those of you that are listening to the podcast, what I'm doing is I'm pulling up mtgtop8.com, which is just a fantastic resource. Just take a look at what's going on and keeping your pulse on it. But you don't have to, because we'll talk about it for you.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
So the first up is this classic qualifier over in France. We have 236 players, and Rakdos midrange is back on top.
Interesting how it is hovering above Devotion to Green. That is unexpected to me. Because with our previous research, I always found Devotion to Green a little bit higher than Rakdos midrange.
But this is why I think looking at that third and fourth deck is important, because what else is going on in this top 8? This is a very abnormal top 8. You have Boros Convoke, Dimir Rogues, whatever that is. And
that's just a cool aggro deck with flash in rogues.
Yeah. And then Devotion to Green. Lotus Field, Devotion to Green, Rakdos midrange, and White Weenie, so mono white humans.
And usually when you see something that is kind of out of order, there is another deck, another archetype blocking the one that would make it to the top.
Yeah, if you look at, so 9 through 16, take a look at this. You have Boros Heroic, Devotion, Fires of Invention, Mono Black Control, Spirit Aggro, and Transmogrify.
So some cool combo decks in there. Well, would you call Transmogrify a combo deck?
Oh, 100%. Okay. You're just trying to get Attracts out. And the thing about, like, when you're looking at a tournament, it's important to look at, honestly, top 32, because oftentimes top 32 is only 1, maybe 2 wins away from making it into that top 8 slot. So we have a lot of aggro. Period.
Like some Greasefang in there as well. There's some Lotus Field combo.
And yeah, in this slot right here, like in the 5 slot, again for you listeners, Lotus Field is making an appearance again. So like we were talking before, and we'll talk about later in this episode, the rock, paper, scissors of magic. All of this aggro is making a little window of opportunity for combo decks. Yeah. And I think we'll keep seeing that. So
and I think too that those combo decks like Lotus Field, they're poison for non-interactive decks like Devotion to Green.
Yeah.
And you just can't do anything while that deck is going off.
Absolutely not. So the RC in Canada, Calgary, Canada, F2F Tour, was the name of the event, had 177 players, and Rakdos Sacrifice came out on top. And I feel like this is, like, if you were to have a stereotypical answer to what your top 8 should be in a tournament, it's this. Yeah. You got Rakdos Sacrifice number 1. Number 2 is Phoenix. Actually, asterisk, Phoenix is making a comeback.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that in some of these other tournaments. Boros Heroic, Rakdos midrange, Mono Green Devotion, Fires, all good decks. Gruul Aggro, you don't really see a lot of. And this, I believe, is the Atarka build. This is Gruul Vehicles.
Yes.
Which is a good antithesis to creature-based decks.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why it's up there. It's number 7 right now.
It's interesting. Like, there's so many decks in the meta right now that I think our next goal with our meta comparison spreadsheet is to just build out kind of the I guess the spheres of influence.
Right.
When this deck is hot, these are doing poorly. These are doing great.
Right. Yeah. And like actually put to paper the theories we're going to talk about today. Yeah. So, all right. So what happened in Canada was, I don't want to say, stays in Canada. I don't want to say it was expected, but come on, it was expected. Well, holy crap, look at this. So this is the European Championship in France on the 30th. 690 players. And what came on top? Combo City. So I think it was episode 1, honestly, we talked about meta shifts. And how when there's a meta shifting, it opens up windows of opportunity for other decks to come to the forefront. Combo was shut down not that long ago. Combo was nothing. And then the summer happened, aggro took over, and now we're seeing a number 1 Lotus Field again. I don't remember the last time I saw Lotus Field take. This is a major tournament. Yeah. This is a huge tournament. And look at number 8. This is almost retraction helix. This is the Rona combo. So number 1 is Lotus Field. Number 2 is Greasefang, which is whatever. Number 3 is Lotus Field again. All right. Number 4 is Racksack, then Fires, then Gruul Aggro, then Rakdos midrange, then Retraction Helix. So in this top 8, we're looking at 1, 2. Would you count Fires as a combo deck?
Yeah, I think so. It is a combo deck.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Because you're and you blink for value. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, sure. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 8 in this top 8 in a tournament of 690 players is combo.
Yeah, it's all combo, and it's interesting because I think the window of like rack sack is that is almost a combo deck.
Almost, but not quite.
Almost a combo deck. It pretends to be an aggro,
Yeah.
but it's relatively non-interactive with the exception of claim the firstborn, and you like gain control of target creature, and then you sacrifice it. So those decks that don't have a lot of creatures to do that to,
Yeah.
all those are dead cards in that
Yeah.
rack sack. They do nothing.
Yeah. So are we making a call right here at episode 3
Lotus
that
Field
the
is
days
back.
no that rack sack is dead in the era of combo is here. Is that bold? Is that too much?
It's so hard because when combo is big,
Yeah.
rack sack is not. I would
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
I think we can make that, and we can look at the data in a little bit.
Yeah.
And really like nail it down if that is.
Yeah.
We'll look at some combo decks and we'll compare them with Rakdos Sacrifice and see how they fall out. We may be wrong with this assumption. It is just an assumption.
It's a hypothesis.
No
and
proof.
We'll test it.
Hypothesis.
And we're data based in our approach. So after we go through the archetypes, we'll go through a couple things first. Then we'll go through the archetypes, and at the end, we're gonna wrap up with a little, meta doctor's corner. JJ's now the meta doctor. You need to see what he's done with the spreadsheet he introduced in episode 2. It's so good.
I love spreadsheets.
The last tournament I wanted to bring up, September 29th, of year of our Lord 2023, was the last chance qualifier. And literally 297 players taking away aggro
combo. Aggro.
Yeah. It's what's interesting. So who's playing at the LCQ? What kind of player is playing at the LCQ? It's people that didn't, players that didn't have an opportunity to get a slot to the championship.
Oh, last chance quality. Yeah, yes.
Exactly. And they came short of the top 8 from the actual championship, which was, again, 50% combo.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at this tournament, not to say, you can't minimize or marginalize any player, because like a winner of a tournament on a day was the best deck of that weekend. Right. Like
you don't know who played who,
and you don't know who played what when there are so many factors in the play. Like Reduke won a pro tour, then went to another pro tour and placed like 64th.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It's Magic the Gathering.
Sometimes you match up with that combo deck that just wrecks you.
Yeah, sometimes it just happens. But you look at this LCQ and it's so interesting to contrast with the actual championship, because it's like you said, 1, 2, 3, 4 aggro decks. So the one slot is the Boris Heroic deck. Then you have Dimir Rogues. The only outlier is the 3 slot, which is Lotus Field.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Gruul Aggro, which is the anti-creature aggro. And then Mono White Humans, tried and true, White Weenie.
Yeah, Gruul Aggro is pretty good against Rakdos midrange too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the interaction, but it does have some tools that you can use.
Yeah. So those are the tournaments. That's what happened in Magic. We are seeing before our eyes the death of aggro.
Aggro is always like, that's the go-to.
No, once people figure out Agatha's Soul Cauldron and Wilds of Eldraine, Pioneer will be forever different.
Like they're figuring out Scalds.
Scalds is already figured. Yeah. Scald is amazing.
Yeah. Well, once they figured that out, and they're like, once they realize you can play cards that do not let you cast anything that is not like Drenith Magistrate.
Yeah.
Like once that's in the humans deck, you're done. You like can't cast anything.
No.
Then you just sit there sad on your side of the table and do nothing.
You know what? All right.
I pulled out all my Drenith Magistrates, by the way.
Just to play me? All right. I'll see you in an hour. How about growth moments this week? So our next section is kind of what JJ and I have been doing, right? So the locus of this podcast is a brainchild of us wanting to get better at playing competitive Magic, right? So this last week, or I guess 2 weeks, because we did put out an episode last week.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Well, so my experience with Control has kind of opened my eyes to my blind spots. I hated Control with a passion for my whole game playing life.
Yeah.
It was one of those them and us things. So opening my heart to Control, opening my heart to new stuff, it made me understand that there's things in the meta that I haven't explored. So I started building out spirits because I haven't played spirits. I've always looked down on it like it was it was this one-trick pony.
It's the stuff off the bottom of your shoe.
Yeah, it's like, and I understand the power of it. What I felt was I would play Dimir Rogues before I would play Spirits, but I need to read the meta. I need to understand it. And I need to play the meta, the whole meta. I think that's where the majority of our power comes from, is understanding what the other person's playing and what they're going to do to us.
I think that's one of our greatest improvements in this last year. So, like, essentially what we did is we made a list. We posed a question to each other. What is the current Pioneer meta? We wrote out every deck. And then
you remember how many?
It was like
20.
It was 20.
20 decks.
We came up with 20 decks. But then we looked at our collections, and essentially we assigned to each other, like, all right, you build that deck, I'll build this, so on and so forth. And so in our play testing with each other, and we're still, I feel like, in our nascency of play testing.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our data sheets right now, we don't have a lot of repetitions of every matchup, because we're playing 20 exponential decks.
Yeah, you try playing Lotus Field for an hour straight, or playing like deck game after game after game. It is exhausting.
Yeah,
because you just to either be the player who's over there comboing off,
right,
and then your opponent's sitting there like checking their phone, like waiting for it to end. It's hard, and same thing with Control. It's hard to be the person who plays against that, but just the discipline of play testing. We're still human. We're human.
Yeah, sometimes we like to do fun Timmy stuff.
Sometimes we pull out our stupid decks, and I'm like, I'm going to make it happen. It doesn't happen.
Or is a Planeswalker is going to melt today.
Yeah. That happened. It was a real thing.
Yeah, no, that's valuable, and it's good that you're building spirits, because at least one of us has to.
Yeah, we have to. We have to do it. And so looking for my blind spots is one of the things that I learned in the last couple of weeks. So pulling in the data at the same time is really helping me focus on what I should be learning. If I don't play spirits, I will not know spirits, and I will be susceptible to it. Chink in my armor.
Yeah, and that's a tip for you guys from our own journey is, wherever possible. Obviously not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to build every deck in the meta.
Yeah.
That's definitely a luxury. But just going to your store and playing as much as you can,
proxy it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Moxfield. Moxfield, recently my favorite website. If you build a deck on Moxfield, which is free to make an account, free to build a deck, you go, and I forgot what the button is, but essentially you proxy it, and it'll template out an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper of the art and the text on the card in a way that's legible for you to just print out, cut out, make a deck. That's huge. That's awesome. That's such a resource.
MTG Goldfish does the same thing. It's a proxy deck, and you just print it out. It's so nice, especially if you're not ready to commit to a deck.
Yeah.
Or if you're just waiting for that card to come in, and you got to play test now.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I'd say so. Over the last couple of weeks, I got involved in a standard league, and I'm 2-0 right now. So
my name's Navigator, and I play standard.
I shit. And I was recently traveling for work. I was in Southeast Asia, and I went to an LGS there, and I played limited.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I went 1-3.
Still, like,
yeah,
novice. limited player?
So really, the biggest lessons learned from both of these things. One is that I do way better in constructed than I do in limited, but really it's that like I'm learning. I'm feeling like there are three ways to hit your chest. You could do an incline, a decline, or a straight press, right? Yeah. And each of those work the muscle group in different ways to get you a more like a better defined shape, a more well-rounded muscular movement.
All this is well defined.
Well, it's the same thing that I'm learning with my own skill set, is that I am able to take these principles to being a good Magic player and just apply them. Now, standard is the one that's baffling me by far the most. And one of the things that makes me realize I'm good at constructed, I knew absolutely nothing about the standard meta. And one of the groups I was in was saying, hey, we're going to start a standard league. And who's signing up? I'm like, why not? I'm on MTGA. I'm on Magic the Gathering Arena. I have it on my phone, really easy to play. Why not? And I picked a play strategy I'm decent with, which is midrange. And then all I focused on doing every single game is playing the best game of Magic that I can. Am I being mana efficient? Do I have 3 lands in a spell? Like basic stuff, mulligan discipline. Like all of these fundamentals we're trying to teach ourselves, I realize is super applicable in all sorts of constructed. Like obviously I pick Golgari midrange, which is a good deck in the format. Obviously pick a good deck if you don't know the meta. But I think tight play is what's making me do well in that league. Now watch next week, I'm gonna lose because I patted myself on the back. But with limited, I realized that it's not just tight lines of play, but to be a good limited player, you need to dedicate yourself to understanding the format.
Yeah.
And that's something I just didn't do.
Well, have you ever heard of bread?
Yeah, you sent me the article, but what is it?
Yeah, so I make sure I get it's an acronym. So bombs, then removal, and then evasion, and then A is
something,
and then dinosaurs.
Bread.
Just remember the first one, brie, like the cheese. Eat the cheese. Yeah. So we're both. I am not a good limited player. I am a dreamer. So when I see that, I could do this awesome thing. All I need is these 3 specific cards. Then I lose so bad.
I think that's it. With limited, both of us, with limited, I'm such a Timmy that I get on some stupid idea that the format does not support.
That's why we're bad. We're bad players because of it.
Yeah.
But the times I did really good in limited was when there was nothing in nothing cool in my pack.
So you just picked the cards.
I was playing bears. I was playing just consistent low power. I was casting something every turn, and I was winning. And I'm like, this is so boring. Right. I didn't turn all of my creatures into one big creature, and then attack in. It was like I play a 2/2 and attack in. Oh, life! Like I got 2 more life than you, and I got 2 damage. It's like simple arithmetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay at sealed. Yeah. Sealed is fine, but sealed is more bomb centric. Like you get what you get.
You can get away with
it. Limited. Yeah, you have to have some skills.
We have to think about what everyone else is pulling out of that deck too, because you can commit to a line that doesn't exist.
If and when we ever make it to the Pro Tour, then we actually have to practice limited. But until that point, I'll stick with constructed.
Yeah. I think constructed's for me. I just don't think well on the fly. And every once in a while, someone will hand me a pack that I open and it's got like a planeswalker in there that isn't going to win me the game, but I'll warp the entire deck around it.
For me, it was dark tutelage.
Yeah.
I got one of the cool art dark tutelages.
This is
I'm
happening.
absolutely doing this. I did not do it. I did not do the thing.
Gonna win.
All right, so that was us the last couple of weeks. I think we should get on to the main topic.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the things we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about archetypes.
Hey, that sounds like a splendid idea.
First thing, what the heck's an archetype?
So in archetype, boiled down to the basic level, is what you're trying to do versus a theme, which is how you're going to do it. So whereas an archetype might be aggro, your theme might be tribal. And we see that in Pioneer in the form of an elves deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's an aggro deck, creature based, and every creature is an elf, right? Tribal.
With exception of one.
Except for the shapeshifters?
No, except for the one that is the Craterhoof Behemoth.
Oh,
that
right.
comes
right,
out
right,
at the
right.
very end and wrecks you.
Right. So archetype is different than theme. So typically when you look at a title of a deck even, you'll see the archetype and the theme.
Yeah.
You know, Rakdos midrange. You'll see Naya Pia, which doesn't tell you anything. It's a midrange.
You'll see like Naya midrange, like mono black midrange, mono black aggro.
Right.
With that, I recommend naming decks. I used to call them stupid names. Like I
still call
like
them stupid
Dragon
names.
Pants and these long names that just don't make any sense, except to me. If you define them by what they are, then you'll understand it better when you grab it and you go play.
Yeah, there you go. But before we dive into archetypes, let's take a 30,000 foot view of what we're trying to convey by talking about some of the greatest deck builders of all time. You'll want to stick around to the end of the episode. We're going to give you guys the top resource for learning about this stuff, the decks and the deck archetypes.
Yeah, so let's first talk about Heezy. Mark Herberholz.
Nice.
That's why he goes by Heezy, or Mark, probably. He's well known, and he dominated the Magic scene in the early 2000s or mid 2000s.
Yeah.
He top aided in limited constructed Pro Tours. One of our first major lessons from him was at the Pro Tour Honolulu 2006. He went up against Conventional Wisdom and his Beach House testing group.
Yeah, it was a group of people that literally had their Airbnb on the beach there, and they called themselves Team Beach House.
Team Beach House.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's been some like legendary. We should go in like legendary testing groups.
Yeah.
Besides us, company exclusive.
If you want that, drop us a comment.
Smash that like. So he went against Conventional Wisdom because he did the work with his testing group, and the testing group wanted to play a black, green, white mid-range strategy deck by innovating a red-green deck that ignored at the time the best cards available in that color.
Stupid.
Yeah, dumb. I wish I was a magic genius so I could make stupid decisions like that.
But he won, didn't he?
Yeah.
How?
How did he win? He took a look at the meta and found answers for cards that were solemnly played and helped key responses to tough metagame matchups. The foundation, though, was sticking to the mana curve. In his red-green Heezy Street deck, he ran 11 1-drops, 8 2-drops, 4 3-drops, 4 4-drops, and 7 pieces of removal or burn. Which it just kind of, if you're going to draw out a deck, that would be a great strategy.
Literally,
just on its own.
Lesson number 1 from the great is just that perfect mana curve. He's like, don't even worry about whatever all the haters around you. You can put out Heezy Street if you want a Heezy Street, as long as it's along the mana curve. You'll win the Pro Tour, apparently.
Yeah, and a good, huge portion of that deck was interaction.
Yeah.
That removal and burn. He also leveraged that. Surprise given to him by ignoring that Conventional Wisdom at PT Philadelphia in 2005, where he introduced the transformational sideboard. So I have to warn you, I have tried transformational sideboards and I love them, but they are No, not.
Well, let me ask.
You have to be easy level.
Have you tried transformational sideboards? So this is lesson number 2, right? Transformational sideboards. Have you tried them from the aspect of changing the archetype or the theme? Do you change the means or what you're trying to do?
Yes, I would change the archetype. That's the one that
I think he was changing the theme.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And he did this by running a combo deck that featured a sideboard of creatures, most of which only cost 2 mana. Post board, when opponents took out most of the removal, which they found inefficient in game 1, he would flood the board with aggressive threats to win the game. So he went from probably like aggro to aggro.
Yeah. well, it's like it says. So he's running this deck, and essentially what he's doing is he's making the opponent have dead cards in hand, which is the best thing you could possibly do as a competitive player. Essentially you run a very low creature count in this deck. You keep your threats in, and you make your opponent realize, like, I don't need this fatal push. I don't need these stomps. Let's get this trash out of here and bring in duresses or whatever. And then you have a handful of creatures, and he's like, oh crap, I don't have my fatal pushes or my stomps. All I have is this useless duress. And that, paves the pathway to victory.
I wonder if I could take out all the combo from Lotus Field and turn it into an aggro.
No, stop it. Stop it.
Stupid idea.
Your Timmy's showing. But I mean, we do see it in Pioneer. I think Phoenix sideboard is one of the best ones to look at for this, because oftentimes you'll sideboard your Phoenixes out completely. In lieu of crackling drinks, things in the ice. Again, I feel like I keep calling him out Redo, but he is my favorite pro Magic player.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's America's kid. But Redo demonstrated it with his team's build of Indomitable Creativity, right? Where you have the combo in game 1, then they start bringing in a whole bunch of stuff to deal with the combo.
Yeah.
And then game 2 and game 3, you don't have the combo, but you have the
aggro or mid-range type.
What's the name of the blue card that they play? It's a horror, a kraken, something.
Oh yeah, it was Thing in the Ice that flips to.
No, not Thing in the Ice. In Indomitable Creativity, it has flash. You can play it. Every time you cast a spell, you counter a spell.
Oh, Hullbreaker.
Hullbreaker Horde.
Yeah,
that's
Hullbreaker
it.
Horde, yeah.
Yeah, so in the sideboard, he had Hullbreaker. He took out World's Spine Worm and Xenagos.
Nice.
Put in Hullbreaker Horde and just dominated.
Yeah.
So this kind of innovation that young Heezy made, still is prevalent in today's Pro Tours.
Yeah.
In period. So while you're learning about these archetypes and learning about these deck types, that's something else to keep in mind. It's not as simple and rigid as I am an aggro deck, I will do the aggro thing all the time.
Yeah.
I am a control deck, I will do the control thing all the time. So even control decks bring in gets +1/+0 every time you draw a card.
Yeah, Dream Trawler.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so my transformational decks, I have a dream.
You tried to change archetypes.
Completely. Try to change the archetype. So my dream is I call it building the machine. And what I like to do is assemble permanents on the battlefield that create a battlefield presence for me. Like
Isn't that Tron?
Well, no, these are like, enchantments that create tokens every turn and then multiply those tokens and turn them into angel, or like doing something like that where I assemble the machine, like putting a bunch of ravens out there that prevent you from attacking me, and putting a bunch of like draw things, so when you try to draw through your deck you're taking a whole pit. So assembling the machine that is my opponent's downfall, which is a stupid way to play Magic. It is so like dependent that your opponent does the thing you want them to do. So yeah, I transform it, basically a good deck, into garbage. Transformational.
Magic the Gathering.
I play Magic the Gathering in the worst way possible.
Well, next up is Michael J. Flores. He's one of Magic's legends in both Magic Theory and deck building. Actually, no Pro Tour wins to his name, but he's deeply regarded and in the Hall of Fame. He wrote what is widely considered the best MTG article of all time, Who is the Beatdown? I'll link to it in the show notes. If you haven't read it, you got to.
Absolutely.
It is, it's Magic Theory 101. He innovated, he was the one that innovated the idea of the hybrid archetype strategy, where you can have a deck that can go either way. And what he did is he built a deck he called Napster. Again, hey, all the greats are naming I think all the greats behind them is a little Timmy. So yeah. You keep naming your decks, JJ. You just keep it up. So he built a deck called Napster. And John Finkel, another MTG Hall of Famer, took it to first place in the 2000 U.S. National Championship. So what it was, though, it was really cool. It was a mono black deck that would either control the opponent the entire time, and we'll get into what control means, or he could go a combo route with the Vampiric Tutor and just find whatever he needed to end the game. And John Finkel, again, he's widely considered the greatest Magic player ever.
Yes, so far
until we make it onto.
So I stopped playing 8 mana spells in my mono green deck.
Until I suffocate my inner Timmy with a pillow. Until the bubbles stop. No. John Finkel is regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. And he took it to that national championship. But that's enough of some old names of that newer players may not know. But if you're one of those people that don't know about Michael J. Flores, John Finkel, or Heezy, rewind a little bit, do yourself a favor, listen to that again, and then look them up. There's tons of resources online. All of these individuals have written at some point in their careers for the major outlets, Star City Games, Channel Fireball. And like we said with Who is the Beatdown, a lot of the stuff that they've written, evergreen.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the cards they talk about in particular, what cards are printed today, those principles still matter.
And those guys rise to the top every time, and it's like it is not a coincidence.
No.
It's like watching the poker pro tour. Those same people are on that final table every time, and they are next level thought process. And that's Heezy, not Beezy from the Nitpicking Nerds. Just shout out.
So we'll include some resources for you guys in the show notes, so make sure you click and give us a like.
Yeah, so that's right. And if you have a question, drop us a comment. Take a quick second to smash that like button, subscribe
right now.
On YouTube.
Unless
Spotify.
You're driving, then be safe, get where you're going, and then like it.
Leave us a Yelp review. Leave us... Go on Nextdoor and drop us, yo, my neighbors, you need to check out.
Stop doing this podcast in your house.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, if you like that kind of MTG history, let us know. We're playing around with our structure of this podcast and what we want to convey to you. Our goal is to grow with you guys, so let us know.
And we'll do several episodes where we try something, and then after the show we'll be like, we didn't like that at all, and then
you'll never hear about it.
We'll never do it again.
Yeah. But here we go. So there are 4 basic archetypes in Magic. You have aggro, you have midrange, you have control, and you have combo.
And including those, we have 12 divisions of those types, giving us 16 macro archetypes,
which is a lot.
Mac and cheese types.
And
bits.
Covering them all, honestly, and in a way that would do them justice, would be a multi-episode series. If you'd like that, let us know by leaving a comment and we'll do it. But for time's sake, we're just going to look at the top 4 types, or the 4 major types, rather, and some examples of them in Pioneer.
Okay, so first up, we're going to start with aggro, but I'm going to give you the 2-minute timer. All right, so in 2 minutes, please sum up aggro. Go.
So aggro decks follow three basic tenets. One, there's an emphasis on creature-based attack, especially early game. Their decks generally run cards that are low CMC or converted mana cost. They typically default to the role of the beatdown in the who is the beatdown scenario. In Pioneer and in many other formats, this archetype is most represented by mono red aggro or red deck wins, which is actually my introduction to 60 card constructed. I love it.
Yeah. Well, you did pretty good. That was
No.
that was about. Oh,
Yeah, no.
are
We're
you still
going?
going?
No, we're
This
still
is
going.
all you.
Oh, this is all me. All right. So a lot of players love it because it's so easy to play. It's focused. It's extremely effective. And this theme, the red aggro of the archetype, is one of the best ways to get new players into tournament Magic. So if you have a friend that's been on edge about playing 60 card constructed at your LGS, give them a red deck. They'll love it.
The other benefit, it's usually pretty cheap.
It's very cheap. Easy cost of entry. So in this type, we see a lower curve than in other aggro decks. So remember, this is a theme. And it packs a punch still. When you're piloting mono red, your goal is to seize the initiative, low-key pressure, in early terms for a quick and decisive win before inevitability takes over by the opponent. It has the ability to finish games because it has reach. It has those burn spells. And you'll be able to lock up the game. The secondary prerogative is a question of whether or not you're supposed to remove blockers with burn, and that and you have to answer the question as to where you're going to point damage. And that's really what, that finesse and that decision making is what separates the goods from the greats in aggro.
I think you nailed
Period.
it. 2 minutes. Nice.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So if you're going to, that introductory point of aggro, of, mono red wins, that's like whenever the meta shifts, mono red steps in and wins a few games and reminds people that this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is aggro.
Yeah.
Some other decks available in Pioneer are your Spirits deck and Mono White Humans.
Yeah. Those are, and then they each have their own little flair, but they're aggro decks.
Aggro. Period.
Scalds is Pia Scalds is an
I would
aggro.
call it more mid range.
Would you?
Yeah.
It's a new thing though.
It's grindy.
It is. It's got things.
It's got length.
It's a little scary.
We'll
now for an archetype that everyone likes to play.
And everyone hates to play against.
Yeah, let's talk about control.
Yeah, ready? 2 minutes, go.
All right. Control decks. The philosophy and objectives of control. Control decks aim to dictate the pace of the game, responding to a neutralization of the opponent's threats, while drawing more cards and gaining incremental advantage. I cannot stress enough how important card draw is in a control deck. Eventually winning the game and being well protected or being protected from unanswerable threats. Okay, so strategy and implementation and card selection. The archetype prioritizes cards that disrupt opponents' strategies, remove threats, counter spells, and draw cards. Island Go. You will hear that a lot. The strategy requires a deep understanding of the game state, foreseeing the opponent's play and determining the optimal time to deploy threats. So understanding the opponent's game is very important. Control decks are not the first deck you play. Bad navigator for trying to do that. You have to understand, because you have limited powers, right? You have limited cards that you're using, so your answers have to be almost premeditated on what the opponent's playing. So here's some examples. Analyze different control decks. So let's look at Azorius Control. So Azorius Control, it has two big hitters, right? What are the two big hitters? Wandering Emperor and Teferi.
That's it.
Once those if those are on the battlefield together, if they got that jam going, the game is over, because they're going to draw enough and they're going to create enough threats to control the battlefield at that point. They're going to use a lot of board wipes. Do they care about creatures? They do not. Do they care about enchantments? A little bit, but they have answers for those. So they will have answers for everything that you play. Now, from game 1 to game 2, if you're doing best of 3, things you have to consider when you're playing control. how that opponent is going to shift their game for your control. So there are a lot of answers in different 2 minutes.
That's 2
You're
minutes.
much better at this.
But better
Fast turn.
No, but better question. All right, my turn.
You know what?
I'm on the
the
Q&A.
control. I counter that.
That's perfect. No, but how do you play against control?
You have to outplay control. You have to outdraw them. So you need to have some interaction for one. Some sort of interaction. You have to get into their hand. You have to get into their gameplay.
So you need disruption.
Yes. You have to do. You can't if you're playing like Lotus Field, you're done, because they will wait for you to do the thing. Actually, you know what? Azorius control probably isn't very good against Lotus Field. You know why? Because Lotus Field moves too fast for it. It's drawing too many cards. It's doing too many things for them to counter the important thing. And there's multiple ways for them to go get to their win condition. So I would put my money on Lotus Field over Azorius control. So like combo decks.
We should. I'll take a note on that, and when we look at the
you're gonna just prove my.
No. I mean, that's what we're here to do, right?
I can say stupid things that aren't true on our podcast.
Well, you made the data, sir, and you will pay for it.
Yeah. So, how do you play against control? You have to keep playing into it. You have to run their resources dry. Don't give them time to recuperate. Make them counter all your threats, one right after the other, after the other, after the other. When you're gonna have to draw at optimum time. Save those instant draw spells for whenever they end of turn something. Then draw those cards in and just out-resource them. It is hard to do, but that's the way I do it. You want to try to outplay them, or if you want to wait for that opportune time. If you're playing like Greasefang, you might be able to find a moment. But once that Teferi hits the deck and they got those 2 lands up at the end of their turn, they're going to counter the thing.
You almost have to bait and switch them.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, here's this really attractive threat. You should counter it.
And we have, like, you and I have mono green favorites that we put in there that are uncounterable threats.
Yeah.
We just can't help ourselves.
Because we're Timmies and we're bad at magic. Okay. So you did okay. It took you 4 minutes instead of 2 control. But you're going to get the back-to-back. Hit me with control. Go.
Oh, combo?
Combo, sorry.
Okay, so combo decks seek to leverage the synergistic interactions between cards to create a powerful, often game-winning effect. The aim is to assemble the combo as quickly and reliably as possible, usually ignoring the opponent's plays. Non-interactive. So card selection is centered around the combo pieces and cards that help find or protect them. A deep understanding of the deck's inner workings, probabilities, and alternative paths to victory is crucial. So combo decks, you need, like I said, you need to have the cards that win the game. Combo decks like Rona, combo decks like Lotus Field, combo decks like Greasefang, combo decks like Enigmatic Fires, Transmogrify. Indomitable Creativity. You need to have those pieces assembled. Good thing is, it creates inevitability. Once the combo happens, once Rona's out there generating unlimited mana, the win happens. But if that is disrupted, you lose the game.
Hold on. We're pausing the timer. You brought up something that's super important. What is inevitability?
Inevitability means once so a good example of that is Enigmatic Fires. Once Enigmatic Fires is out doing the thing that it does, the odds of you beating that deck go down to almost 0, because it is it can select specific things to answer threats that you have on the board. So no matter what you play, they're going to get the thing that fixes the game for them.
So essentially, inevitability is a point in the game or the match where no matter what, someone is going to more likely than not going to win, and someone is more likely than not going to lose. I think, speaking about archetypes, the matchup of aggro versus combo, red deck wins versus Fires, specifically because Fires has a very specific mana curve, right? So red deck wins versus fires if the red deck, who is the beatdown, again, Michael J. Flores, if the red deck lets the fires deck survive to turn 5, again, because enigmatic fires is 5 CMC, right?
Enigmatic, it's turn 4, so fires comes out to turn,
fires,
and then enigmatic if they have them both in their
if
hand.
they have them both. So nominally it's turn 4, 5.
The engine is cooking on turn 5.
Yeah.
If it goes to turn 5,
it's game. Right, and that's exactly what they're saying. Inevitability is for that red deck. I have 4, maybe 5 turns to win this game, and if I don't, there is absolutely nothing. He's going to get a what's his name?
Attracts a Grand Unifier.
Attracts out a 7/7. It's game over. So that's inevitability. Sorry, Frank. Resume combo.
No,
go.
That was a good combo. Okay. Well, are we going combo? Or are we going to jump to mid range?
Oh, are you done? That was like a minute.
That was a good explanation.
That was good.
I think that was a good discussion of
combo. That was 100%.
It does the thing.
You have thing and everything. A thing. That's the key to a combo deck. Because like when you or me try to build a combo deck from scratch, like my stupid artifact deck that tries to make a Mech Titan. That's great. I'm trying to do too many things.
What about your poison counter deck that used Vorinclex and what was the
my Cornucopia deck?
It
had 2 cards in it, and it counted on ulting a Johnny and the Vorinclex.
So the win condition was ultimate a Planeswalker, and then get Vorinclex on the battlefield or something like that. Like, it was an impossible.
I did it once. I did it once, and it was awesome. Okay,
worth it.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
But so that's the thing. A good combo deck is incredibly focused. Yeah. A Transmogrify deck has better than Transmogrify. Your Indomitable Creativity deck will flip into the same 2 creatures every time. Yeah. Unless they have a transformational sideboard.
But like Greasefang. Greasefang. By turn 3, Greasefang is probably coming out. Yeah. Occasionally in some builds, I've seen it come out on turn 2. Yeah, with the Stay Awake. Like they Stitcher Supplier, and then you just roll the dice and you get that Greasefang and Parhelion on that first turn, then Stay Awake. Greasefang comes back to the battlefield.
That's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
All right, so my turn.
Yeah, what are we talking? Mid-range?
Mid-range.
Thank you. Go.
All right, so mid-range decks, they try and strike a balance between aggression and control. So this is a deck with the answers. They adapt their role according to whatever the matchup is, and they seek to deploy efficient value-generating threats while interacting with the opponent's game plan. A mid-range deck is a deck that, if you're a really good Magic player, can walk into any local meta with a basic understanding of how deck archetypes work and win. Mid-range decks, they opt for versatile, impactful cards capable of both offense and defense, depending on what the situation is. But to be really good at this archetype, it requires a deep level of understanding of your role in various matchups, and being extremely efficient with resource allocation, because it's close. It's always close with mid-range. I'm using mid-range as my deck in standard for my standard league for this reason. I don't know the meta, but I know the archetypes, and I know what a disruption spell looks like. One of the most dominant decks in Pioneer for the longest period was Rakdos midrange. Why? Because it had every answer you needed. It had hand disruption. It had creature destruction. It penalized you for drawing cards. It did all the things. That is what a good, effective mid-range deck does. And it's if you're going into a format for the first time, mid-range is also not really for you. Because like control, it requires that experience. Yeah. But your mid-range deck has it's like an aggro deck with legs. is what we call it. It's an aggro deck that can go the full game.
That's good. It's perfect. You did right at 2 minutes.
Crushing it.
Yeah, we're doing great. We're just trying not to talk too much. And mid-range is, you got the talent level. I think if you go out and you devote yourself to playing mid-range, it'll make you an all-around better Magic player.
You know who's a big fan of mid-range Magic? Redo.
Well, he historically has been the Jund guy, and Jund is the classic modern mid-range deck.
You know, I hate turning this into a Reduke show, but Reduke, if you ever listen to me, I love you.
You know what? He would hug us.
I hope so.
I think he would, in a manly,
friendly
way.
Yeah, magician.
He would hug you. You're adorable.
But the thing, actually, the Reduke quote that I remember him saying that kind of frames mid-range decks for me. He was talking about, modern Jund, which is his thing, his bread and butter. He referred to playing the deck like turning the screws on someone. And that's exactly what a mid-range deck is. You have this target, you have this person, and essentially a masterful mid-range player will just, okay, I'm going to tighten the left screw, I'm going to tighten the right screw, putting this pressure until you force the opponent's deck to implode. But it takes a lot of skill to do that.
It does, because there's an interesting thing that happens with mid-range decks, that the threats that are in place, they grow as the game grows. And they increase in power, and if a lot of them are angled to already be answers, like they are already installed in the game. So getting around a mid-range deck, you could out aggro. I could see. You could probably out aggro a mid-range deck. It does not move as fast, but it does have interaction, it does have disruption. So I guess we'll see in the data where it falls out with something like a Boros aggro or something.
Yeah. So this last bit on the archetype discussion that we wanted to touch on before we got to the Meta Doctor's Corner was the rock, paper, scissors game of Magic. So traditionally, aggro, combo, and control, and the mid-range is kind of an anomaly here, those three form the rock, the paper, and the scissors of Magic the Gathering, where aggro tends to be control, because control, for instance, in Pioneer, in Azorius Control, one of their major threats, besides their planeswalkers, is Hall of the Storm Giants, which you need 6 mana in order to activate, minimum. Aggro tends to be control because it develops an advantage before the control engine comes online. And again, if the aggro player can finesse the decisions they need to in order to beat the control player. Control, however, it tends to be combo. So your little Lotus Field on Azorius Control question, don't think I forgot about it. We're going to revisit it.
I think the numbers might show different.
We'll see.
I watched a lot of gameplay, and I don't know. I could be wrong.
Look, paper tends to cover rock except for when it doesn't.
I could see. You know what? And two, we have to understand that control, we say it as a blanket statement. Control is a one type of deck, but really, a deck that is control could be angled towards creatures. It could be angled towards
spells.
Yes, like different types of threats.
Yeah.
The current Azorius Control deck that you'll see in top 8s, that is a more general. It has many answers.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And combo tends to be aggro.
Yes.
Because aggro has zero interaction, besides like damage or burn spells maybe. In combo, they just care about doing the thing.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen the get down to 2 life, and then oops, I did it.
And you win.
Combo.
That's great. That's awesome. So that's it for archetypes. At least for the major ones. Like I said, there are 16. that we can talk about. If you want to learn about all 16 of those, let us know, and we'll put a few episodes together.
Bite size,
one bite at a time. And I promise you guys at the beginning of this episode, the biggest resource for learning about decks and deck archetypes, and that's actually Next Level Deck Building by Patrick Chapin, another MTG Hall of Famer. When I tell you this thing is like a textbook, it is like a college level textbook for Magic the Gathering.
I love that you went and found textbooks about making decks. And then,
100%.
Well, didn't you take some courses on it too?
100% I did.
What were your courses?
It was what's his name?
Did Reed Duke teach you?
I did have one from Reed Duke. Not a live one of those paid ones.
Yeah, but it's he did what is it called?
Well, I mean, Reed Duke level 1 is great. Mm-hmm. That's where Reed Duke essentially takes up the beginning of his writing in MTG and publishes all. I'm pretty sure it's cheap, if not free.
It was something Spikes, right?
Oh, Spikes Academy.
Spikes Academy. That's it.
Yeah, and I also did the Spikes Academy, but that's with not Javier Dominguez. His name is going to escape me. Hold on, guys. I don't want to. Since we're calling him out here, I'm going to call him out.
Yeah, our educators.
Spikes Academy.
And just a note on the way we play test, and our a lot of it is difficult because we have to remove our emotions from the game while we play. And it took a while to do that because in the midst of playing, you get very almost desperate to win or to find a way out. But the more you do it, the less painful those. Just going, when you're up against Lotus Field, you're up against Control, you really have to suck it up and just sit through it. Interesting. You countered. Interesting. you board wiped. Interesting.
Yeah. And PVDDR.
Oh, okay.
Pablo Vitor de la Rosa.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Yeah. No. So those are a few of our resources. I'll try to link to a couple of them. Patrick Chapin's book, little known, still available for purchase from Star City Games. So if you guys have the means, by all means, support the author because we need more Magic content like that. Those books are incredible. Next Level Magic and Next Level Deck Building. So that is it for the archetype discussion. Yes. Now, do you want to ground that in your metagame?
Yeah, let's take a look. So let's just do a basic comparison of what we got so far. Okay. We're going to look at. Let's just take. Let's just put it to rest. The Lotus Field and Control.
Okay.
We'll see if we have enough decks to talk about it. So I think you go down.
So
down. That's the thing right there. So select
Lotus Field. All right, guys. Here it is: Azorius Control versus Lotus Field combo.
On a limb.
Azorius Control 61.1% of the time. You don't question Michael J. Flores.
We only have so whenever they met. So the way the presence factor is every time they met, 11 times Control won and 7 times Lotus Field.
So we have 18 matchups, which you tell me the statistical significance is in 9 sets.
Yeah, it's good.
Nice.
I think that's good. Want to look at Control against?
Well, that shows you guys how well we researched the rock paper scissors thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Control beats combo.
Yeah.
Oh, let's test it all out. The rock paper scissors. So, Control beats combo. Right. Now combo is supposed to be aggro.
To put Boros aggro on it.
What's your favorite aggro? Boros aggro?
I think that's the easiest one to get through from the list.
Wrong.
Well, it's combo.
Lotus Field combo. Lotus combo beats aggro.
Well, there's only 3 they've only met 3 times. So low numbers.
Wait, isn't that? No, they've met 16 times.
Oh yeah, they have. Jeez, that's wrong.
So hey, if you're running
Boros aggro is fast. It's turn 3. I think Lotus Field. Pick a different aggro deck, any aggro.
Let's do mono white humans.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, so again, if you're listening, Boris Aggro versus Lotus Field, they've met 16 times. In 13 of those times, they beat Lotus Field. Or Boris Aggro has beat Lotus Field.
Yeah.
So mono white humans. This is close.
Yeah.
But still, mono white comes on top.
Yeah.
So maybe Lotus Field isn't that good. What if we try a different combo? Creativity. Still.
Yeah. Oh no, that's oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So hey, combo decks, take a seat.
That was lies.
Except for when they win, because we saw in our last week in Pioneer review, combo decks still took the top.
Yeah.
They're still on number 1 seed. So something's going on. So maybe we need more data.
I think we know more than they do.
Because
we collect the data.
I do not think so.
Talking about a tendency isn't the same as collecting data on it and doing it. So it may have been that when that was written, that was the thing happening at that time. This is current. This is like just now. So I think aggro decks have sped up. You see how fast Boros aggro is. It's turn 3 and you're junked. Like you're just done. And that's same as like mono white humans. It got super powerful, right? And it had answers in the main board.
Yeah.
I think aggro is changed. It's faster. It's not put mono red aggro out there.
Mono red versus what?
Versus what were we going against? Combo. So
Lotus Field. So mono red aggro versus 40% against creativity, but they've only met 5 times. Let's look at Lotus Field. Boom. Only met 7 times, and mono red aggro is still on top.
Wow, look at that. I think aggro changed. I think aggro is faster now.
So when is Lotus Field good?
I think Lotus Field against midrange. Oh no, not midrange. Against Rakdos Sacrifice.
Okay. Survey says Rakdos Sacrifice. They've met 26 times. They've won 38% of the time. Lotus Field is bad. Lotus Field is trash.
What about mono green?
Against mono green?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on. I retract my statements until this.
Because if that would make sense. If it's good against mono green.
They've met 28 times. Lotus Field has won 28% of the time.
Wow.
That's 8 out of 28.
Who created this?
I would not have gotten a college degree with that score on my test.
Wow, it's terrible.
That is trash.
Lotus Field is trash.
Lotus Field's trash. Well, sorry, Nathan Story. You're a real smart guy.
So far in that meta, what about Lotus Field against Rakdos midrange?
Okay.
That's the other big one. When is Lotus Field good?
It's never good.
Never.
Oh, shoot! Unless you're playing against Rakdos midrange.
That's the answer.
So, are you making a theory that combo is good versus
midrange? I am.
I'm declaring it.
I declare it as the truth.
All right. I guess we'll have to test that. So, that's awesome. But anyway, what else did you want to show with this besides that you were wrong with control versus combo?
We were going to compare Rakdos Sac against different
yeah. Let's take a look. So just because, we were going to test the state of the current meta because we know Rakdos Sac was dominating. So versus Boris Aggro. Wow. 15 matchups of Rakdos Sac versus Boris Aggro, and Boris Aggro won 80% of the time. So that is way too fast. Because you think Rakdos Sac needs a full engine. It needs a Witch's Oven. It needs a Cauldron Familiar. It needs a Mayhem Devil. That's a lot of stuff. Boris Aggro is like, ooh, I got creatures.
And its defense is it claims the firstborn and gets rid of 1 creature.
Yeah.
Rakdos or Boris Aggro is like, I don't care. Take that 1 creature. I'll make 20 more.
Yeah. What about midrange? So Sac against aggro, not so good. Sac against that's grow midrange. Hold on.
Yeah, it's still midrange. How many times? It's only
13.
That's pretty good. So it came
This
out.
is better. Yeah, Rakdos midrange.
Mm.
So dominant deck over formerly dominant deck.
Yeah.
Met 27 times. And Rakdos sack won 2/3 of that.
That makes sense, because so now you have two decks that we've identified that go up against Rakdos Sacrifice, one of the top, or Rakdos midrange. The Rakdos Sack and Lotus Field go up against Rakdos midrange, and they come out on top.
Yeah.
So that's a good reason why people play Lotus Field. If you think Rakdos midrange is in the meta and it's thick, come in with a combo deck and see what happens.
What about Rakdos mid versus one of the other combos?
Greasefang?
Greasefang? 50%.
Ooh.
Met 24 times.
That makes
Very even.
sense
12-12.
because Rakdos midrange has answers for the graveyard.
And that's the Greasefang combo. So Rakdos midrange does a very good job specifically against. So what about a different combo?
How about what's the big combo? Rona? Is Rona?
Yeah. I don't know if they'll have a significant representation. Okay, so they met 9 times, and Rona is won 5 out of 9.
Maybe Rakdos midrange is the deck that's anchoring these other decks. Because that is a huge staple in Pioneer. Then it opens the aperture to let these combo decks rise to the top.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's cool. That's the meta doctor's corner. This is all JJ's creation, and an absolutely phenomenal tool that we tend to use. So let me stop sharing. Okay. Okie dokie. That's all I got, man.
Yeah, I think that was a good episode. I think we got deep in the meta. I got it all over me. I smell like meta.
Yeah. We talked about archetypes. I gave you guys some good resources. Again, I'll do my best to link them in the show notes. Some good resources on some of the history of decks, of archetypes, and really how you use it. We talked about this last week. We made some hypotheses, some predictions.
Oh, I'm wrong and you're right.
Most of the time.
I am not attractive and you are handsome. I am weak and you are strong.
And really, I think so. This archetype discussion is important because it's one that you take with you in every format that you play. And I think we saw that in our improving moment,
Mm-hmm.
at least for me anyway. Like going to standard, I use knowledge of archetypes to help me win, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people improve playing competitive Magic. Again, we're telling it from the Pioneer lens. A lot of the decks and cards that we talked about were from the Pioneer metagame. Our analysis, our data is from the Pioneer metagame because we love Pioneer. But this is a lesson that's widely applicable.
Yeah. No, I think we've discovered some things that I didn't see until we started talking about it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know aggro was there.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting.
Boros aggro. It's one of those that we have to build now.
Yeah, all aggros. Maybe it's just a new world for aggro. And maybe Lotus Field is trash.
And Lotus Field is trash. All right, guys.
I can stop playing it.
Yeah. No, that's it for this episode. Remember, always choose violence. Hit like and subscribe. And I need another drink.
Yes.
So we'll see you guys next week, hopefully.
Night.
Peace.